Hey everyone, welcome to the video. Going my cheat sheet for tonight's NASCAR race at Bristol Motor Speedway. It's the Bass Pro Shops NRA night race at 7:30 p.m. And anyway, before we continue, if you could leave a like, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on any of my new videos, I would really appreciate that. You can also follow me on Twitter at ChrisPinell16. And if you'd like access to my entire NASCAR sheet, where I post my rankings, my projections, my target sheet, and my GPP driver exposures, and you can get access to my Slack chat where you can ask me all the questions you want. The link is in the description below for my Patreon. And anyway, I will say I am back from vacation, so everything should be back to normal. That's mostly for the MLB videos, but this is why the NASCAR video is coming out so late. I apologize. I usually get that out right away after qualifying, but I just got back from the flight. It was like 5 hours, so I'm very tired. But I thought I'd put the video together so more people could view it. I didn't want to get it out just a few hours before the race happened, so that's why it's coming out at 3 in the morning. I apologize for that, but thankfully I can finally play DraftKings because I really didn't want to miss this race because I love Bristol. It's my favorite track for DFS purposes, mainly because I've had the most success with it outside of Daytona and Talladega. The last 2 races at Bristol, I've won the single entry GPP and I've won the big GPP, with multi-entry and all that. So I absolutely love Bristol. It's been very kind to me. I don't know. I just have the strategy down for it. So really looking forward to this race. So let's go into the preview of this track. So again, this is the Bass Pro Shop NRA night race. And that's 7:30 p.m. It's going to be a really fun race to watch just from a NASCAR fan point of view. And the track, this is Bristol Motor Speedway. It's 0.5 mile in length, 500 laps. So 500, that is a lot of laps, which means we have a lot of Dominator points available, roughly about 375. And I will say this is an impound race, so that means if their qualifying position gets disallowed tomorrow during inspection, they will fall to the back and they're going to be scored as if they were starting in the back. So let's say Austin Dillon starting 19th. Fails inspection, he's going to end up starting near the 30s, depending on how many other people would fail inspection before him. So and also I will say the inspection starts at 2, and I believe it'll probably end around 5, which really sucks because the race starts at 7:30, so that doesn't give us much time to build lineups, because I don't want to build all my lineups before inspection, because you never know. I don't want to have to redo my entire lineup, so kind of sucks how they're not giving us much time, but yeah, I can only do what they give us. And some strategy and tips for this track: Dominator points, Dominator points, Dominator points. Get that drilled in your head. That is very important this weekend, especially with 500 laps. We're going to want 2 to 3 Dominators per lineup. The last winning lineup in this track had Joey Logano, Ryan Blaney. Here were the 2 main Dominators, and I know Kyle Busch led some laps, but he actually didn't make the winning lineup because of how expensive he was. And Clint Boyer was a minor dominator, so we want 2 to 3 dominators per lineup. That's going to be the winning combination unless someone just absolutely dominates the entire race, but I really don't see that happening. And then place differential is obviously always important too. So anyway, let's get into a little driver by driver breakdown. I'm not going to go over every single driver, which I guess I might, but I want to talk about mostly the guys I have colored here. So I will go over the key for why these guys are colored. I kind of forgot to do that last video. So the green guys are the dominators, potential dominators in my opinion. The blue guys are the place differential plays. The yellow guys are GPP only plays, but I do really like these guys for GPPs. And the reds are the fades, and then the orange guys are cheap drivers I have interest in. So up top, as always, Kyle Busch. Let's talk about him. He's 12,700. Now the big thing is he qualified 31st this weekend. Now this makes him really interesting because we want Dominator points, and obviously he's not gonna be able to lead the first stage or anything. But if he can always get back up front, and he's qualifying 31st, and I mean obviously he's always got a car that can contend for the win, get up front, lead laps, and starting 31st, this makes him the safest play on the board in my opinion. Because because if he finishes like top 5, that's like he led 100 laps. So and I think he can do that. I mean, he had a really good car in practice 1. He was 3rd in the 10 lap. Practice 2 got a little bit worse, got a little slow, and he ended up qualifying bad. But I mean, it's Kyle Busch. I think he's going to be possibly the highest owned driver tomorrow, and I think it's for good reason. He's been absolutely excellent here. If you look at his numbers, he's averaging 72 DraftKings points per race here. 108 driver rating. He's got 3 wins in the past 5 races here. He's been absolutely incredible. He's in the top 10 60% of the time, top 5 60% of the time. He's got has the most fast laps here, averaging the most laps led, actually no, that's not correct. He's not averaging the most laps led. take that back. But he's averaging the most fast laps per race is what I meant to say. So I absolutely love Kyle Busch. He should be able to make his way up through the field. I wouldn't be surprised if he's in the top 10 by maybe probably by the first stage. He's possibly in the top 10, maybe even the top 5. He's just that good. So I really do like Kyle Busch a lot going into this race. And I know that's not a hot take or anything. He's going to be very popular, but I think you got to play him. Now, it might be interesting to fade him in GPPs because he's going to be very highly owned. And if he doesn't end up dominating this race, there is a chance he's not in this winning lineup. But if he ends up getting any kind of dominator points and finishes in the top 5, there's probably a 100% chance he's in that winning lineup unless something else happens, like, say, Truex and Hamlin end up dominating like 50% of the race each. Then there's a chance that Kyle Busch is not in the winning lineup because you can't play all 3 of these guys. But I do think Kyle Busch is a fantastic play, and he should definitely be on your radar starting 31st. Kevin Harvick at 12,200. He's been good here. He's averaging 67 DraftKings points per race here, 97 driver rating. Time in the top 10, 80% of the time. Average finish of 8.2. Now, he's not my favorite play. I can't see myself having too much Kevin Harvick just because Kyle Busch is a little bit more expensive and he's right on that price tag. And I think he's a much better play and safer play because there's a chance that Kevin Harvick doesn't lead any laps, and that's going to really hurt him at 12,200, especially for a race like that. But I do think he's a fine play. Now, was he the best in practice? No, he wasn't the best, but it's Kevin Harvick. He's finally on a hot streak after a pretty bad start to this season. So I do think he's in play, just again, not one of my favorite plays. And then Martin Truex, I think he's also in play, but again, he's on the outside in. I would much rather play Denny Hamlin and Joey Logano rather than Kevin Harvick and Martin Truex, but I recognize the fact that they are potential dominators, just how good they are. But again, they are second and third fiddle to Denny Hamlin and Joey Logano in terms of dominators, in my opinion, and Kyle Larson, which we'll get to soon. So I don't want to go too in-depth on Martin Truex. I might have just a little bit of exposure because he is starting third, so there's a chance he gets up front. And he's been a little bit better on short tracks recently. So I think he's a little interesting, but again, not someone I want to be too heavy on whatsoever. And I actually have him, I will say this, I have him ranked the worst out of this entire group outside of Brad Keselowski. And let's talk about, I don't want to play Brad Keselowski, so I don't want to talk about him. But Denny Hamlin at 10,700, he's got the pole, and he has been hot recently. He's been driving very well. And now, is he the absolute best here? No, he's not the absolute best, but he's still got some pretty decent numbers. And we know how important starting on the pole has been for certain races. Sometimes it's pretty hard to pass the leader. Now, I don't think Denny Hamlin's going to lead the entire race. He tends to screw up on pit road. So I know Chase Elliott had the pole on the first race that we had here in the spring. He ended up wrecking after like 38 laps. I mean, he was fine. He just spun out, but Denny Hamlin, something could happen to him like that. On pit road, he seems to always mess up, so there is a chance for that, but he's been really well recently. He qualified on the pole. He's got an average driver rating of 93 here, averaging 42 DraftKings points per race, average finish of 9.2. Top 5, 40% of the time. Top 10, 60% of the time. So the numbers are good there. I think he can stay up front. Hopefully he can lead around 100 laps. That'd be excellent. I mean, that might be asking for a lot for the guy on the pole, but as long as it stays green for a little bit, I think he can have a pretty good race here. He should be able to get a top 10. Hopefully, if he leads around 100 laps, I think he should be just fine there. So I do want to definitely get some exposure to Denny Hamlin. And then Joey Logano, he qualified 11th, and I really like using Joey Logano here at Bristol. He's been very good. He qualified 11th, I already said that, 10,200, averaging 69.5 DraftKings points per race here, average drive rating of 108.8, which I believe is second out of all active drivers here. Average finish of 6.8, which is really, really good. I believe that is first or second out of all these drivers. I think he's tied with Jimmy Johnson for first. So I do like Joey Logano a lot. In the top 5, 60% of the time. Top 10, 80% of the time. Top 15, 100% of the time. He's averaging 63 laps led here per race. 26.4 fast laps. So I do think he's a very good play, and I would definitely want to get some exposure to him tomorrow. He's one of my favorite dominators outside of Denny Hamlin. So out of this group, I want Denny Hamlin and Joey Logano the most, and I actually think Joey Logano might be a little bit safer because he is qualifying 11th, so we do have place differential upside. Now, I mean, it's no guarantee he gets up front, but I do think he has the card to do it, and he's just got the track history as well. And then Chase Elliott and Kurt Busch, I do think they're interesting plays. I don't think they're bad plays by any means, but they kind of they fall in a gray area where I really don't want to play them. I'd rather play the guys below them. I think the tier below The 9K tier I'm not in love with outside of Kyle Larson. I know there's only 3 drivers, but the 8K tier is really, really good. So I'm going to get most of my exposure there. But so Chase Elliott, Kurt Busch, they're okay plays for GPPs. They're going to be lower owned, and I mean they're not bad here by any means, especially Kurt Busch. He's in the top 60% of the time here. Chase Elliott's no slouch either. But I want to talk about Kyle Larson. He qualified second, and he's been absolutely awesome here. He's averaging the most DraftKings points per race here, 82.75. Average driver rating of 108.9, which leads all drivers, even over Kyle Busch. And he's got an average finish of 7.6, which is very, very good. He's in the top 5 40% of the time, top 10 80% of the time. And if we look at his average fast laps and average laps led here, he's averaging 49.6 laps led here, and an average running position of 8.2, averaging 98 laps led here per race. So I love Kyle Larson, and I would definitely want to get a lot of exposure to him tomorrow. That's one thing that worries me about Denny Hamlin. I think Kyle Larson might be able to get him. If we look at his practice speeds, weren't the best, and actually Denny Hamlin was a little bit better, especially in the 10 lap in practice 2 with 6 compared to Larson at 15. But I do like Kyle Larson still, no matter, even with the practice being not the best. He's just been very good here, and qualifying second, I think he could grab an early lead over Denny Hamlin. So let's get to the next tier. This is a tier I like a lot. We have Eric Jones at 8,900. He is very good at Bristol. He's averaging 50 DraftKings points per race here. He qualified 9th, so I do think his ownership will be a little bit lower, but that is just fine with me. He was very, very high owned last Bristol race. I believe he was starting 4th, and he was a little cheaper than he should have been. And he was really chalky. He ended up not really doing anything much. So I do think he can have a really good race though. Average driver rating of 95 here in the top 5 40% of the time, top 10 40% of the time. He's been good here. I'm not going to be someone I'm too heavy on, starting 9th, because there is a little bit of downside, but I do think Eric Jones has the potential for a top 5 finish, and he's someone I want to get exposure to, especially in GPPs. So I'm probably going to pass on that in cash games, but GPPs he's just fine. Now, Ryan Blaney, this is one of my favorite plays on the weekend. He was blazing fast in practice. If you look at his numbers, you're going to see a lot of green bars. So in practice 2, he was second the first and the single lap, which I really don't pay attention to too much, but in the 10 lap, he was first. So he's got the speed. He's got the speed this weekend. I like the Penske cars outside of Keselowski, Joey Logano, and Ryan Blaney. And he's way too cheap at 8,600. He had a really good race last time at Bristol. He was in the winning lineup, led over 100 laps, and just that looked amazing. So give me all the Ryan Blaney I can handle tomorrow. He's going to be one of my core drivers, starting 12th. Hopefully that lowers his ownership a little bit. It might not, but I think Ryan Blaney is a fantastic play heading into the race. He's averaging 44 DraftKings points per race here, 96 driver rating. Average finish doesn't look too pretty, but I'll look past that. Is in the top 10 60% of the time, so chances are he's going to move up and get that place differential, and he's got top 3, top 5 upside. He could even win the race, possibly. So definitely like Ryan Blaney tomorrow. Alex Bowman, I'm not someone I'm too interested in, but Clint Boyer starting 20th. I think he's going to be really high owned. He's mispriced at 8,200. He was in the winning lineup last time too, and he's very good here. 53 DraftKings points per race, 96 driver rating, 8.4 average finish. He's in the top 10 80% of the time. I don't see how we don't play Clint Boyer this weekend. He's probably going to be one of my highest owned drivers. He's mispriced at 8,200. He's probably be near that 9K range, but I'm not complaining. I'm going to be having a lot of Clint Boyer, and you should too. Ryan Newman, he's not my favorite play in the world, but at 8K, he qualified 14th. I don't think he's going to have too much ownership. He's got an average finish of 10 here, average driver rating of 84, averaging 44 DraftKings points per race here. I think he's a fine play. He's in the top 10 60% of the time, so chances are he will move up. He's in the top 15 100% of the time, so I think he's a very safe play, and I don't think he's going to hurt your lineups, and there is some upside there as well. Now, Eric Almirola, he's someone I'm going to be fading this weekend at 7,800. He qualified 5th. He's just not very good here. 10.5 DraftKings points per race, 58 driver rating, average finish of 26. These numbers are very bad. He's in the top 10 only 20% of the time. I'm going to pass on Eric Almirola this weekend. I just don't see any reason of playing him. I don't think he hangs around out there, and I think he just only moves back. Austin Dillon, screw Austin Dillon. I hate playing Austin Dillon so much. Chris Buescher, he qualified 29. So if you look at his last race at Bristol, it doesn't look too pretty, but he was running really, really well, and he was very high owned. But at the very end, he had I forget what exactly happened, but he had a problem where he had to pit. He was running really good. So I'm going to look past that average finish there. I think he's a fantastic play. He's been running really well this season. He's a much better driver than 7,400 in my opinion. And starting 29th, he's absolutely moving up. So one of my favorite plays in the weekend. He's very safe. And Daniel Suarez at 7,200, another guy who was in the winning lineup. I believe he qualified 20th in a pretty decent race. He qualified 18th this time around, though. And he's pretty decent here. 37 DraftKings points per race, 77 driver rating, average finish of 14, which I do like. He's in the top 15, 60% of the time. I think he's a fine play. If we take a look at his practice numbers, kind of lost my spot here. Yeah, he was 9th in the 10 lap, 8th in the 10 lap in the other practice. So the speed's there. I think he's fine at 7,200. I think he's a little underpriced. So do like me some Daniel Suarez this weekend. I feel like he likes to screw me a lot. When I play him, he sucks. When I don't, he's really good. So hopefully he does good for us this time. But I do like Daniel Suarez at that price tag. Then Jimmie Johnson, welcome to the second highest owned play of the week, maybe outside of Kyle Busch. He might be actually the highest owned considering his price tag. So we'll call him the chalkiest driver of the weekend, but it's warranted. He's very good at Bristol. He's qualified 30th. He's at an average DraftKings points per race here of 58.5, average driver rating of 102, average finish of 6.8. He's got a win here in the past 5 races, top 5 40% of the time, top 10 80% of the time, top 15 100% of the time. Get yourself some Jimmie Johnson in your lineups this weekend. You're going to need it. He's been fantastic this season. And I just don't see how he's not your highest owned driver unless you want to fade the chalk. But I do not want to fade Jimmie Johnson chalk. I'd rather just get different somewhere else. And then William Byron, I think he's okay. Not someone I'm too high on though. But Matt DiBenedetto, he's really interesting this week. He qualified 7th. So I know that kind of sounds like maybe we shouldn't play him, but look at his practice numbers. He was absolutely amazing. He was not qualified. He was 4th in the single lap P1, 2nd in the 10 lap, 1st in the 1 lap in practice 2, 3rd in the 10 lap in P2. He is awesome, and he's going to be driving with a chip on his shoulder. If you guys didn't see that recent news, so I like Matt DiBenedetto. I think he can hang around in the top 10. He's definitely got the speed for it. He was really good in the last Bristol race. He was in the winning lineup. So I know he qualified 7th, but I have no problem having a lot of Matt DiBenedetto. I think he can hang around the top 10, definitely get a top 15. I don't think it would hurt too bad if he finishes in around the top 12 area. So do like Matt DiBenedetto. I know it looks scary qualifying 7th, but I think he's a fine play. So definitely, he's got so much speed this weekend. I don't want to fade him. So I do want to play Matt DiBenedetto. And then Ricky Stenhouse, he's actually pretty decent at Bristol, but I mean, if you fit your lineup, I don't think it's the worst, but not someone I'm too interested in. Then Paul Menard, he is very mispriced at 6,200. Now, I know he's not the best driver in the world, but he's more of a 6.87K driver, in my opinion, maybe 6.5, but 6.2, let's just take the value play here. He qualified 25th. He was someone I had a lot of interest in before the race by just looking at the price tag, and then qualifying 25th. That just makes me very happy because I think he's a fantastic play. He's got an average finish of 17.4 here. He's in the top 15, 40% of the time. So I think this is a really good play for salary relief. And he's not like a scrub, so he does have upside where he can finish in the top 15. Like, a lot of these guys down here aren't going to top 15 like Matt Tiff, Corey LaJoie, Bob Wallace. And they're priced pretty similarly, I don't know if I said that right, but to Paul Menard. So I do like Paul Menard a lot. He's going to be one of my higher owned drivers. Ty Dillon, he was in the winning lineup last race, and he qualified 24th. He's got an average finish of 23 here. It's just, he's cheap, 5,900, and he's had some success at Bristol, and he's not like an absolute scrub in my opinion, so I don't mind using him if you need some salary relief. And then the other guy I want to talk about is Ross Chastain, starting dead last. Really, he can only move up. Now, if a lot of guys fail inspection and he doesn't, and he ends up starting around 32 or something, I'm not going to be interested in. But as of right now, starting dead last, I do have interest. He finished, I think, 29th around their last race, if I'm correct. He's not the worst here. So he's got an average finish of 31. That's like 8 place differential points. And I think he's a safe play. I mean, it's not exciting or anything, but I don't think he sinks your lineup. Now, he probably is not going to win you a GPP unless you can get the exact right combo, but I think he's a decently safe play. And I'm not going to play anyone else in that price range. Maybe Landon Castle. He's not the worst here, actually. He's averaging 21 DraftKings points per race here. Average finish of 27. Let's actually give him the cheap tag. Why not? Anyway, guys, I think that's all I got for the video. Sorry if I sound tired and not too excited. I've been up all day. It's very late, 3:30 in the morning. I've been flying all day, so I apologize for that. But these are my plays. So I hope this was helpful for you guys. I'm looking forward to the race. You should too. It's a very fun race to watch. I love night races, and especially Bristol. It's going to be awesome. So anyway, guys, that's all I got for the video. Remember to leave a like, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell so you don't miss any of the new videos. If you'd like access to the entire sheet and my Slack chat, link is in the description below for my Patreon. And I wish you guys the best of luck tomorrow.